Hey everyone, thanks for bearing with me on this. I'm actually coming out sick, so I just want to tell you everything you need to know about sort of what we would have covered in class today anyway. I'm going to show you I have two different videos I made for you here. One of them, this one is going to cover the annotated bibliography, and so I'll tell you how that works and what to do with that and all that kind of fun stuff. And then the second video, I'll actually walk you through the databases and sort of how to navigate those to get your to get the sources you'll need. So to and also too, if you're in the 11 o'clock class, whatever the later one is, um, the I know this isn't our class, but it's exactly the same. It's another section of 112. So if you go through assignments and materials, then literature review, and then the annotated bibliography there, you'll see at the top there's the assignment description for that. So you can probably kind of guess what we are sort of doing with this already, just based on sort of how we talked about it. But I just wanted to kind of go over bit by bit what we're actually doing. So what we're going to do is find the sources for our literature review project. So what we're going to do is one, choose any topic that we want to choose. Now the thing about topics is, I think probably the biggest thing that people get stuck on in terms of choosing a topic for this kind of project is that they get hung up on the idea that this is a science type paper. Now it actually doesn't really matter. The topic itself isn't what makes the thing scientific per se. The kind of sources you use and what those sources are saying is what ends up making it be sort of scientific, so to speak. So to kind of put it a different way, we take something like poetry, which may seem entirely detached from the idea of science. And it is if the person who's writing about it is writing about it as a poet. But we also see a lot of work written by neurologists and so on, and psychiatrists and psychologists and so on, that talk about the sort of health benefits of that kind of creativity and that kind of reading and so on. And so that would be sort of scientific because it's medical in that case. So the trick then is to make sure that the sources you're using are the science type sources, not necessarily the topic. Now that being said, the topic can be scientific, in the way you might normally think of it. Now to help you get started, I've given you links to two websites, and you can kind of use these as a good way to sort of get started, because these are both just science news websites. And what they do is, just that is what it says in the box, science news. So you can kind of use these as a starting point because, being news, we're talking about new information and that kind of thing. So, you can kind of take your topic from here. Now, notice I said topic and not resources. You're not going to get your research from this website, just an idea for the topic. And the other one does, pretty much the same thing there. So biology, chemistry, that kind of stuff. And then we have hi. We might have a visitor. And then we have okay. You want to be in my video? Sorry. No, you're fine. Yes, thank you. So we might have yeah, no. Yeah, no. You want to push? Okay, bye-bye. Okay. Okay. I'll be right back. Okay, back. So I don't even know what it's even talking about. So so you're gonna find your look, another visitor. There. You'll find your topic here, not your actual research. This just it just works with how this whole week has been going. But so that's a good starting point to find your topic. You can use anything you want as a topic. It does not matter, just so long as the sources you find are also science type sources. So we'll talk about that in the next video. But so let's kind of go through the rest of this, just the requirements for the actual assignment itself. So one, all of your research needs to be STEM type research, meaning like science, technology, engineering, medicine, math. So it could be your traditional sort of like quote unquote hard science, like chemistry and biology and that kind of stuff. It could also be like computer science. It could also be medicine. It could be like engineering and stuff like that. That so much doesn't matter. Just as long as it falls within that category of sort of like science. So the thing to be wary of, like social science, is not the same thing as like the science we're talking about here. So with with that in mind, you probably want to avoid psychology, whereas psychiatry is okay. Like there is a distinction. Psychology is more about the behavioral part, and psychology is more about the brain chemistry and medicine part. And so, like, if you want to do something like that, focus on like the psychiatry of that. So all of your sources need to be from reliable LRC, NC Live stuff. That's the next video, and then they need to pass the crab quiz. And the idea behind these sources is that they show the state of the conversation. They show where the conversation is right now. The stuff we're talking about with the other assignments, like the stuff that's new, like the stuff that's recently discovered, the things that we don't know yet, and that kind of thing. So what you don't want and what you don't need and what you shouldn't use are things that are like definitions, at least as far part of your 5 required sources. So then all sources should provide different points of view on the issue or topic. Now, when we talk about the different points of view, we're not necessarily saying that they're going to agree or disagree. They're just sort of saying like different things about the same topic. So if we're talking about like caffeine, then you might say, caffeine in children and like this particular area, or caffeine in children who have ADHD, or whatever. But as long as it's on that sort of key sort of issue there. Um, the quotes that you use should be like the findings, especially like the bottom line findings. I'm going to show you a thing in the next video about where to go to sort of like find that stuff. But yeah, we're looking for findings at this point right now. So then you can use background and definition type research. But the key thing there is that, one, this background and definition type research can only go in the introduction, and two, it doesn't count towards the 5 required sources for the whole project. So if you find 1 or 2 different background and definition sources, you still need to find 5 more scholarly sources that does like all of that stuff. So then from there, it needs to come from scholarly peer-reviewed journals, basically, and LRC associated stuff. So, like, to make a long story short, don't even go on Google, because anything you find there you cannot use. And yes, I can't tell the difference. So don't even bother trying to give me a source that you didn't find on the databases. And also, just to get it said, like, yes, you can find the source and topic you're looking. You just gotta know how to look for it, and we can talk about that as we go through it. So anything that comes from non-school stuff, can't use. So if you can find it on Google, you can't use it. So don't even bother looking there, because anything you do find, can't use it. So these need to be scholarly sources, and 5 total. And there, like I said in class, like there's no hard and fast rule that says like you have to use journal articles, but you do have to use journal articles, just based on the nature of how this stuff works. Journal articles is where you're going to find the newest information. You're not going to find a book that has newer information than a journal article if both of those things are the same age. Now, I mean, obviously, if you found a book that's published, 5 years more recently than a journal article, but yeah, but you know what I'm saying. The only other place where you might find new information is in this thing called conference proceedings, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But that's actually the one place that an idea is published before it goes to a journal article, and that's actually kind of part of the larger academic publication process, but that's a whole other story. But non-scholarly sources like news articles and reference materials cannot be used as your part of your 5 main sources. So again, background, definition, reference, stuff like that. Introduction, not part of the 5. And then they all need to be recent, and 5 years is going to be our max for this. So 5 total. And then, yeah, so those are the requirements for the sources. Topics up to you. Just make sure that sources themselves are scholarly journal articles. So then from there, so the annotated bibliography part. Now, there's 2 different ways to kind of look at this. One, if you had me for 111, just do exactly what you did for 111. It's exactly the same thing. And 2, if you haven't, we're going to do sort of 2 different things put together. One is going to be the citation. You see that there. That's what we did with the CSE practice, I don't know, last week or something like that. And the other part is the annotation there. Now, the annotation is done in a very certain way. One is going to have 2 sentences of summary. This is what they were looking for. This is what they found. 2 sentences of evaluation. This is how they pass the crap, or how the source passes the crap quiz. 2 sentences of reflection. This is how I'm using it in the source, and this is how I'm using the source in my paper. And then finally, direct quote within text citation. And so when you put it all together, you'll have several of these. And I said this in class on Tuesday, and Duff's, I'll repeat this again a couple times. This right here is not a paragraph, it's an annotation. So the annotation is just some notes. And basically the point of that is just to prove to me that the source is actually good enough for you to use in the paper. So when you actually write the paper, what you've written here, has nothing to do with the actual requirements for the paper. So anyway, just be aware of that. So there's this stuff. So there's that. So let me show you 2 other things I have given you. So there's a planning sheet for this. I think of this as the pre-writing for the bibliography. You're not actually turning this in, but it's really helpful for actually putting the thing together. So just remember, this is not what you turn in. What you turn in is going to look like the sample I'm going to show you in a second. But when you find your first source, make your bibliographic citation in the same way we did with the CSE practice. Then write your annotation. 2 sentences of summary. This is what they were looking for. This is what they found. Then 2 sentences of evaluation. How does the source meet CRAP requirements? 2 sentences of reflection. How will the source be used in your essay? What does the source show and tell readers? And finally, the second sentence of reflection, this is one of the main ones I'm looking at, is how does this source answer your research question? If the source doesn't answer your research question, you can't use it. So then your direct quote within text citation, I'll show you where to look for that quote and what to use in the next video. But then repeat for the other remaining sources, so until you have 5 total. Once you have this filled out, all you're going to do is turn that into this right here, the annotated bibliography example here. So notice we have our CSE cover page. We have our citation. This is like the one I showed you in class. We have our annotation, our quote, citation, then annotation, then quote. And there you go. And that's all you got to do. What's it highlighted like that's weird. So like that's the annotated bibliography. So what we're going to be doing over the next, several days is working on this. I think at least like a week and a half, maybe. The actual bibliography itself is due on Thursday, January 26th, which is, so it would be a week from when you're seeing this. So yeah, so we'll be working on this in class for a little while. Then, so yeah. So if you have any questions or anything, just let me know, and I may end up pushing that. I just want to see the syllabus to see what that says about the dates. So it'll be like Thursday night, I think, and so we'll play around with that. So yeah, so that's that. If you have any questions or anything, just let me know. And also remember, if you have any like questions between now and next time, under contact info. That's not that one. Under course information, you have that my Google Voice number. You can kind of text me at that number, and I'll get you. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, check out the next video and have fun with your research.